Things are really starting to sizzle in RG2. The temperature is really rising. A whopping 32 degrees around the Madstad when I went down earlier to collect this classic piece of fabric that I'm wearing now, which you'll be able to see on YouTube. But aside from that, Big Joel has signed a new contract, and we've got a new Irishman in town, Mr. Paudie O'Connor. We're going to talk about them, both of those guys, actually, in the pod later on. Joining me, as always, on episode 421 of the Tilehurst podcast is Mr. Ross Webber, who is not wearing the new home shirt.
Wow,
why is that, Ross? Why are you not wearing that?
The shipping, is just awful. Like they released this thing at 10 o'clock this morning. It's just after 9 o'clock in the UK. They've had almost 12 hours. What's going on here? So no, I'm not wearing the shirt just yet. But if you want to see the shirt in action, you can see it on the YouTube. That is on the YouTube version of the pod. That is exactly correct. It's very nice. I like it.
Well, look, excitement is fizzing like a car battery in a puddle at the moment. We are gearing up for a brand new season. We are getting very, very excited. We're loving life. We're loving life. We had a cracking pod, with Mr. Rob Coig last week. Lovely guy. You can only take people as you find them. I thought he came across excellently. I think Ross did as well. You can listen to that.
He was very friendly. Yeah.
It's done numbers, that one, hasn't it, Ross? It's done absolute numbers for us.
It has done numbers. Yeah, it was the. Sort of unsurprisingly, it's the most popular one since we came on board. But it's really interesting actually to kind of see what you guys really go in for and what you like. Obviously, we've had like a lot of great interviews and things, and there's one coming up later in this pod too. But yeah, that one with Mr. Coig, really, really good. And he was just very friendly and willing to go down some weird rabbit holes, which was fun. And I know that he's rustled some people's jimmies with the fireworks too, which I just think is funny. So, more power to him and his Catherine wheels.
Absolutely. Well, listen, if you're one of those people that have just joined us after, maybe you've just joined us for the first time ever after last week, welcome back. We hope you like what you listened to last week. There's more of that to come over the summer. We've got quite a few interviews lined up, as Ross alluded to. We've got Mr. Dale Y in an exclusive interview about the kit and kind of launch day later on. He's the Mega Shop manager. So he's on to talk about this. But yeah, if you are one of those people that have just joined the Tilehurst podcast, we welcome you with open arms. You will find our whole back catalogue wherever you get your podcast from. This is episode 421, however. We are here to give you some updates on our opinions on the updates. They're not actual breaking news. This is a long-standing joke for us where we think there's like a core of people that just get their breaking news from a pod that comes out 3 days after the actual news. But whatever. Thank you very much, the Amazons, for their theme song. You can download that again from wherever you download music from. You can also buy physical copies wherever you buy physical copies from.
I've given the album just a quick one on that. I've given the album a proper listen through now, which I advise. I think it's called 21st Century Fiction, the new Amazon's album. Thank you. That the My Blood, the new theme song for the pod came off. It's really good. I like Night After Night in particular. Check it out. Check out the Amazons. Thank you to the Amazons again. Again, like you said about Mr. Coig, thoroughly lovely chaps. The Amazons.
Yeah, they are. They're good eggs. They're good eggs.
Yeah,
and they look really good in Reading shirts. So
yeah,
thanks as always to our main sponsors, ZCZ Films, who I'm sure Valdemar will be absolutely loving this from an art-loving point of view. I'm sure he will. The texture on it, the little, whatever that is.
Right, Chef's exactly. Kiss. That's true. We should get the art critic view.
We should, yeah. Let's get into the recap of the large news over the last week. We're going to do that right now.
This podcast is sponsored by ZCZ Films because the best art isn't on the walls, it's on the pitch.
Right, Ross. Let's start with our new centre back.
Yes,
Paudie O'Connor.
Yes,
signed from Lincoln, 4-year deal. It's like a proper club's business, isn't it? That.
I know. It's exciting, isn't it, when you're signing the captain, of a team that finished 4 places below us last season. This is a really good piece of business. I think I'm quite excited about this one. So, obviously, Reading have got a bit of replacement to do this summer in the centre back department. We've known since January, and honestly, we've known since before then, haven't we, that Tyler Bindon would not be with us this season coming up. He was obviously a really core part of the team and really, really important, to the spine. Bindon obviously played on the left side of the defense for the most part, even though he was a right-footed player, and that is actually pretty much what we're getting out of Paudie O'Connor as well. So he is a guy who's played mostly on the left side of defense for the past 3 years for Lincoln. He is right-footed, however. And if you put up his attribute map, you can find those on SofaScore. There's a player trait sort of guide as well on FOTMob. But if you look at the one on SofaScore, and you combine it with Tyler Bindon's attribute map, what you're going to see are 2 almost perfectly similar maps. So this is another quite intelligent piece of recruitment, in my opinion. And obviously, Noel spoke about him too, and seems pretty excited about him. But I think that this is a piece that's going to just, if we're trying to replace Tyler Bindon, in the aggregate, to use one of our favorite phrases, this is a pretty good option. Now, the ways in which he is a little bit different from Bindon, he is less, when we're talking about when he's on the ball, he's less of someone who's going to dribble out of defense. He's less someone who's comfortable with the ball at his feet. However, when he's delivering the ball, he's actually even more, especially long, he's actually even more prolific than Tyler Bindon. So obviously Bindon is a pretty great passer of the ball, very good at retaining possession. Paudie's not quite at the same level there. However, he has a long ball in him that's really, really quite impressive. And there's quite a few Lincoln attacks last season that started from Paudie receiving the ball on the left side of defense, switching it onto his right foot, and then hitting a really nice long ball down the way to the right winger. He's also, on top of all of this, pretty good in the air, despite being shorter than Tyler Bindon overall. So he wins more aerial duels per game. He also is useful at set plays, which is something we're going to need to replace, from Bindon. He picked up, I think, 2 goals and 4 assists. Some people have it down as 5 assists last year, which 5 assists, if we'll go with the higher number for a center back, is pretty good. And some of those are coming from these kind of long raking balls forward, but some of them are coming from being the back post sort of header of the ball from a corner or a set piece or something like that. So yeah, there's kind of an overview there. There's more things to say about him that are exciting, but yeah, I guess, what do you want to know about? Is there anything about him that caught your eye?
I look at him and I wonder, if he was at a petrol station, what snack would he choose?
Okay. I'll have to search my research very, very thoroughly for
I guess really, I say discipline, that's not right. I mean, he got 11 yellows and 2 reds last season. Is that more, really putting you on the spot here, is that more about the way in which he needed to recover the ball because Lincoln's midfield lost it in the games? Or is that more about his temperament? Because he does quite like a one-on-one from what I can see.
Sure.
Is that something?
No, it's a really great question.
Worked out of his game, or is that something that we're just going to get in terms of not quite Joey van der Berg-esque in terms of head loss, but is that something to watch for? When Sam Hutchinson joined, and there was that long-running thing where people were like, Sam Hutchinson, yellow card, please gamble responsibly. But is it along those lines, like that kind of, do you know what I mean?
It's a great question. I think something that you're going to see with him is that he's a volume player. So he gets involved in an awful lot on the field. And especially with duels and things like that, he is really getting into a lot of them. So just to give you a little bit of comparison here, per 90, Paudie is winning 10 duels per 90. Tyler Binden won about 6.5 per 90. So this is a player that really, as a defender, wants to be aggressive, wants to get
how
towards
do you
the
win
ball carrier.
6.5? Why isn't it
Well,
6 or
per
7?
90. It's per 90
Okay.
over the course of the season. Yeah. I can round things up for you. Yeah.
Nice,
I'll round.
nice.
Yeah. So anyway,
The
sorry, I
maths
should have
are
made that more
really
clear. No, you're good. So basically, he's about 150% more aggressive, I guess, than Tyler Binden. If we're looking at it statistically, he gets through. He gets into more duels on the
little
ball.
life hack, right? Little life hack. When people go, they give 110%. When people say that, I want to slap them.
Okay.
I
Well,
physically
Paudie's
want
giving
to raise my hand.
150. So
It's not
good
possible,
thing
is
I'm
it?
on. Well, it might be. He can do 150% of what Tyler Binden did last year because he literally did do. So anyway, let me put it this way.
I've said it before, and I'll say it again. Percentages are out of 100.
Well, not really though, are they? Because anyway, he's a good player. He gets through a lot of work, and I think that because he gets himself into a lot of duels and he wants to tackle, challenge for the ball quite a lot, he also does get himself into some, into the ref's notebook quite a bit. He is, I think, when I was watching a lot of his 1v1s today and trying to get a sense of how he goes about that and what he tries to do. And he really gets in. He likes to take a big step on a player quite early. I noticed. So he will try and win that ball pretty high and quickly right away. And then if that doesn't work, he's then left obviously
he lets
running
him know
back
early doors. He's in the game. That's what he does.
Right, exactly. Yeah, he does. He's definitely
doors.
that kind of player. Yeah, definitely. But then that means that he is often, if he does get the ball pushed past him, he is then running back towards his own net. He's in more of a, high stress situation. In that case, I have seen a few whereby he will basically body the player. And if that's not going to work, he'll just pull him down. So I think some of those, you said it's a lot of yellow cards in there, a couple of reds, but a lot of yellow cards in there. And I think that some of those are, taking one for the team and taking the free kick rather than taking the, rather than letting the man through. And so I think he's definitely more aggressive than Tyler Binden. I think you'll see that. But the flip side of that is that he does end up winning more duels. He does end up winning possession of the ball, basically, more often than Tyler Binden did. So, yeah, this is going to be, he's almost certainly the Tyler Binden replacement. He's going to be the left-sided player. He's played 3 seasons in a row, almost completely, he started more than 35 games for the last 3 seasons in a row in League One. So he knows the league well. He's not going to be, he's not going to need a game like Binden had against Blackpool, not last season, but the season before, whereby he, kind of got shown up by more experienced strikers. Paudie O'Connor is past that part of his career. He's 27. Like you said, he's signed a 4-year contract. So we're basically getting, the last years of his prime. This is some good recruitment, and it could be pretty exciting.
Okay, so key headlines is a ruddy bloody scoundrel.
Yeah.
Is 150% better than Tyler Binden. Loves a header. Loves a one-on-one.
Loves a header. Yeah.
Probably likes a Mars bar at a petrol station. They're the 5 points.
Yeah. Oh, and he also looks quite a bit like Lewis Wing in the right light, which is quite funny.
Yeah.
I think. I think he looks like Lewis Wing a little bit, but yeah.
Yeah. Look, whichever way you spin it, all jokes aside, it's I heard some people or read some people refer to it as a proper Reading signing. And I have issues with that because he's basically the first signing we've made properly, I think, since Ajaria. Is that right?
Well, we still haven't paid
for it,
money.
did we? Went on
We
free,
still
right?
didn't pay any money, so I don't think it counts. Still, like we picked up Lewis Wing in similar in a similar situation whereby he had offers from other clubs but chose to come to us.
True.
But I mean, like I said, this is the captain of Lincoln who has chosen to come to Reading. I think that I was looking at some of his game film. He had a kind of shaky-ish end to the season, and he wasn't starting all of the games towards the end of the season. And so that may have actually worked in our favor, because I'm sure that didn't, I'm sure that ended up causing some tensions between him and the coaching staff. I'm speculating, but if I'm looking at his history,
might have known he was, these players know they're going, I guess, and everyone else doesn't.
yeah.
I don't know. Maybe that was this
Yeah.
situation, but yeah.
And Lincoln were pretty much on the beach, at that point in the season too. Lincoln weren't making the playoffs; they weren't getting relegated. So we've signed the captain of another League One club, and not like one of the lower end League One clubs. Like, this is a guy who could have had a reasonable chance of competing for the playoffs again with Lincoln next year, and instead he's chosen to come to us. So that's really good to see.
Well, it's a really positive piece of business. Agent is Stephen Hunt, who, if you don't know, is Noel Hunt's brother. And if you don't know that, you shouldn't be listening to this pod anyway. But by the by, that is the connection there. And yeah, we're buzzing. We're buzzing on the pod. I mean, if we weren't so ignorant and narrow-minded, we would have got a Lincoln fan on to discuss him. But Sim has done a nice piece on it for the Town End. So have a little look at that. It's on the website. There's a very nice rundown of how O'Connor plays. Should be a great signing for us.
Well, a nice summary.
Good signing.
Mark Mayo said it really well in our little TTE group chat when he said, this club always does well when they lean on the Irish connection. And yeah, I agree with that. So good to see Paudie. Welcome to the club.
Big Joel and Goal has signed up for the Reading Renaissance period, as I'm officially calling this. It's pointless to say how do you feel about that. He was your player of the season. He was sofa score goalkeeper of the season. There was numerous other awards. We've said time and again, the best, pardon the pun, hands down goalkeeper in the bloody league. So to get him done is surely a remarkable piece of business for us. Surely,
it's fantastic. I think that. Do you feel that we got kind of lucky that Sellers was obviously sacked by Hull? I mean, now looks like he might be back in the league next year, but I think do you think we're lucky there that Pereira is not going to Hull potentially because Sellers is not there anymore? Or do you think there's more to it? Yeah. All right. I'll move on. I think we've done really well.
Do I think? Yeah. I think it was fortunate. I think because of the level that Sellers has now gone to in terms of Sheffield United, with all due respect to our players, they won't be looking at that level. They won't be looking at that cut-off point. So I think the connection that, we talked a little bit about Harvey Nibbs potentially going to Hull. I think he would have been a good fit there personally. But that's when he could end up at Hull. You don't know, but he's unlikely to now that Sellers isn't there. So I think it's a positive that he has moved to Sheffield United and is not still at Hull. But I just felt with Pereira that it was never in doubt. You said it on your Why You Watch Reading video, which is great. I actually managed to sit through that one without vomiting, so thank you for that. If you've not seen it, he comes in full kit. He's got goalie gloves on and everything. And then when he looks around, and he's going, "Oh, this is the Tilehurst end YouTube." He goes, "Nice digs in here." I had a proper low at that. It was nice. It was good.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad it's appealing. Yeah.
Yeah, it was good.
I can go into it more.
You said it right that he has that. He seems to have that connection with the fans, and it's a different kind of connection to when Benge potentially is Pereira's quite understated after the games. He has his rituals and he has his things that he needs to do, but there's something that I just felt like it was always going to be a done deal, and at no point did I think he was going. And Benge, we're not really going to focus on in this pod at the moment. It's a very different thing there. But with Pereira, you know, as you will agree, Ross, he was pivotal to our success last year. It's really, really important with the goalkeeping department the way that it is now, that he is hands down the number one. And anyone who comes in knows that. You know, you made the point again in your video that he took over at a time when it was very, very turbulent, when it was like interchangeable almost with those two or three goalkeepers that we had. And he's held on to that, and he's been absolutely phenomenal, you know. So I think it's a really, really positive signing. I think it's a real statement of intent, even though he was still, you know, technically our player. And to get that done this early, I was always taught, you know, in any teams I played, that you build from the back. So you have to have those components in place. You have to have stable goalkeeper, stable defence, and then you move it forward from there. And this is the case with Reading. You know, I always like clubs to do their recruitment from the back. You know, get the goalkeeper done first, then you move to defence, then you move to midfield. Yeah.
Doing it the way you want, basically. Yeah, no, I think it's funny because, like, I think some people would say, well, hang on, doesn't Mbenge, I know we're not talking about him, but doesn't he have a connection to the club? Because, you know, he does all that stuff at the ends of the games where he loves, you know, going into the fans and doing all that. He was in the fan section for one of the games earlier in the season. I think something you can see with Pereira is that he's become very comfortable in Reading. Like you say, he has that ritual at the end of the game where he goes out and he does his sort of kneeling across the pitch thing. I've seen Harvey do that with him before as well, which is really sweet. But yeah, he just seems very comfortable at the club, Pereira. I'm really excited to keep him, obviously. I think that so the one place where I wasn't always super thrilled with him was in his distribution. But taking a look into that more, you know, at the end of the season, I did kind of see some improvement in that regard. And also, I kind of took a look at it in the context of the league that we're actually in, you know, rather than the league that we'd like to be in. And at this level, Pereira is more than above replacement level as a distributor, basically, as well. So he's doing all that for you. My favorite save from Pereira, I wish I talked about this in the video that I did, but my favorite save from Pereira last season was one where when we were at the game together and he made a save on Clinton Mola's shot into the top left-hand corner right at the end of that Bristol game to keep it at 1-0. Insane save at the time. Like, you know it from the eye test that's an insane save. But again, I'm just going to give you some stats because it's fun. Obviously, you know, you get so that shot was hit right by Mola from absolutely nowhere. It had an XG of 0.01 when it was hit, but by the time, you know, but in terms of where it reached, the XG on target was 0.71. So when that shot is hit like that, it goes in 70% of the time, basically. And Pereira was able to pull off that save, one of the highest XG on target saves that he made all season. And I think it's just fun tying up the like spectacular with the statistical and seeing, you know, what in the data, you know, what Pereira's incredible performance actually looks like in the data too. At the end of the day, as I've said a million times, but I'll say it again now, he was 9 goals ahead of, you know, where he would be where an average replacement would be expected to be in terms of how many goals he saved us this season. He saw 55 goals worth of XG on target, and he conceded only 46. Just absolutely remarkable. You know, you want your goalkeeper to be, you know, saving, you know, a few more than he's actually seeing. You want him to be like, you know, breaking even, you know, at minimum. To be 9 ahead at the end of the season and to have saved us that many goals. Yeah, you're right. Like, if we want to build from the back, I don't think there was a better replacement available at League One level, basically.
I'll tell you what's great as well is that because the new kit's come out, which we're going to talk about imminently, the goalkeeper kit is almost like a highlighter green colour. And I think he's going to look at that.
Is he going to wear it though? He only wears the black one. No?
He's contractually obliged to wear the shirt for 60% of the time.
That's true. Maybe they put that into the because last time he signed a deal mid-season and he came in. So I imagine that this new deal has given him quite a pay rise, I'm sure. But at the same time, we should have put something in there like, right, Joel, if we can't buy those black and red kits from the megastore, then you can't wear them because it's not fair. I want that kit and I can't have it. So anyway,
that really was a shirt. That was I love a goalkeeper shirt, and that black and red one was delicious.
So cool,
absolutely delicious.
Yeah.
So
really cool.
We're gonna talk about the kit now. We got an exclusive interview with Dale White. To my knowledge, it's the only podcast he's spoken to today. I think it's the only podcast he's spoken to in Reading, full stop. So we're going to hear from him now about this shirt, which actually, no, before we do that, Ross, do you like it? Like, you all right with this?
Yeah, basically. Like I am always somebody who prefers at this point, because like you and I both been Reading fans for decades, and like we have, I'm sure, quite a few home kits each, from back through the years. I know you said you haven't bought loads and loads, but you got last season, and I'm sure you have some others. I tend to get away kits because you get different designs and things like this, and that's really where I end up going. But this one's nice. Like, I think it's good. I think that this is going to lend itself really well, and we'll talk about this with Dale a little bit, but I think it's going to lend itself really well to the overall branding for the season. I thought that when we had the Townscape branding that went on like all the lineups and things that came from the home kit, that was really strong. So I think as a kit, it's pretty good. But as a basis for the like sort of branding for the year, it's really cool. It's going to lead to a lot of really good looking things. And yeah, I mean, like the media team just does a good job with that, making everything look professional, I think. So yeah, that's what I think. What do you think of it?
I like it. Like, I wasn't, I think because there was a lot of noise, but people go, that's disgusting. Like, well, you can't, we're lucky in that you can't really make a completely disgusting home shirt. Like, it's blue and white hoops,
We have a good color scheme. Yeah, I am very, very happy. Whenever we have a home kit launch, I'm always quite happy that we're not Burton or I don't know. Like, I'm trying to think of another team with a shirt that I don't care for. But so I'm sorry, Burton, that was me. None of you are listening, whatever. But like, if I had to wear like bright yellow every season, I definitely wouldn't be buying a home kit every year. So yeah, I think we have a decent color scheme, and like, I like the hoops, so always lends itself to a pretty okay kit.
But this, I think, is the most extreme they could get with it, and I'm just kind of modelling it a little bit. But I think this will go down as a cult classic. I really do, and I think it's good. I like more white on the shirt. I'm desperate for a white away kit. I know that wouldn't work because we're blue and white. Like, we've had a black one. We had a black third one a couple of seasons ago. I really like the red away shirt from last season. That was my favourite of the lot. I like plain, simple shirts, and I just think with a white away shirt with a few little accents on it, I think it would be absolutely stunning. But I mean, my bread and butter is the training kit. I love a training kit.
So I love them too. I love them too. I coached this morning, and I wore the training kit from a couple of seasons ago, and yeah, it's just great stuff. Like, I really, really like that. But yeah, looking forward to talking to Dale.
Well, let's get into it then. Let's do that right now.
You're listening to the Tilehurst End podcast. Don't forget to give us a 5-star review wherever you listen to your podcast. It will help the podcast grow and reach fellow Royals.
So, very special day at Reading Football Club. The brand new home kit, if you can call it that, I guess, is I'm wearing it right now, sort of modelling it. Dale thought that was hilarious off air. We are joined by Dale White, who is I refer to it as the mega shop manager. But that's not your official title, is it? It's not the mega.
No, my official title is retail general manager. But honestly, like, thank you for having me on it in whatever title people call me. I'm sure there's been a few things I've been called over the last three and a half years that I've been here. But yeah, no, I think we've had a kit launch today.
We have.
Something's been launched today. Yeah,
exactly. And I suppose the first question is, and I don't know if you can answer this. Do you like it? Do you like the shirt?
Okay, right. So, as I say to anyone that asks, I see these kits like as far back as October is the first time I kind of have my first interaction with them. You know, credit to Tim and Roseanne at the club because they get the designs in so early, even before that. So we get a real head start on other clubs, I think, you know, in terms of design. So I see them in October way. So whether
Oh
they're
wow.
good, bad, indifferent, um, my shock is in October. So I have a lot of time to prepare myself. And then, you know, we get the kits in our hand physically, anything from a week before, a couple of days before. So believe me, being around a kit, I know this sounds really silly, but being around a shirt for 10, 12 hours a day, you start to grow accustomed to it. And look,
Hmm.
initially I didn't like it. I'm going to be completely honest. I didn't like it. The more and more I saw of like the assets that the club was creating, when I got it in hand, you know, I promised my boss I wouldn't go full partridge on this podcast, but you know, to borrow a phrase, can I shock you? I like it. I like it. Um, you know, I really like it. I think it's different. It's certainly different, but you know what a position we're in that we can do this stuff now. Do you know what I mean? You
Mm.
know, the kind of shackles are off, things like that, and we can produce this kit that has got the whole of hashtag Reading FC, which is a great hashtag that I enjoy being part of. That has got everyone talking. But
Well,
yeah,
I think, you know, for those people that haven't seen it for whatever reason, I'm right in saying that this pattern, you know, that the actual hooped blue part of the pattern is to do with Huntley and Palmer's, right? The biscuit tin
yeah, yeah.
style.
Look, I
Which
think. Go on,
you,
Ross. Yeah.
I was just going to say, Dale, yeah, like obviously we had the kind of like biscuit tins of the 150th and stuff, but for some younger fans of the club, you know, who have had the Royals their whole life, this might be a first proper introduction to the biscuit, man.
Yeah, and I think that's really good. I think this is, you know, a time when the club is targeting a new generation of fan,
Yep.
and to the fact that we're able to call back to, you know, that particular part of the club's history via the kit is really good. And I think, you know, the fact that the Biscuit Men, you know, kind of moniker is looks like it's back. Hopefully we'll continue to use that in, you know, like social media and things like that, but it's a really good learning, you know, step for those younger fans,
Yeah.
and you know, also older fans to connect back to the club, because let's not forget there are fans out there that have had a period of not being around for whatever reasons, you know, and this is a kind of a call to arms, I think, anyway, in terms of, you know, getting people back on board and, you know, having that link. And again, like the club, to their credit, they're really, really good at this with the kits. You've seen the Purple Turtle kit, the Forbury Lion kit,
Yeah. Yeah.
the Cityscape kit. You know, there's all these, you know, links to Reading, you know, and the Reading community, and I think
Yeah.
that's a really, really good aspect. So you're right, the design is based on, you know, the Huntley and Palmer biscuit tins. I've enjoyed a lot of the Chat GPT versions of this kit, shall we say?
Well,
But
I
yeah,
mean,
look
let's.
over.
You mentioned social media there. I mean, let's talk about that first of all, and then talk about, you know, the physical, you say, interaction with the fans today and how they've been. What? 'Cause I haven't been keeping eye of it too much, but I've seen some pretty insane stuff. Some of it's quite borderline. Some of it's just a bit tongue in cheek. What what have you kind of seen today? You know, now that the kit is out in the public forum, that's kind
Yeah.
of, you've gone, what are you talking about? Like, what are you on about here? Like, has it surprised you, the strength of reaction to what is essentially a piece of fabric?
Yeah, look, I've said it before and I'll say it again. I think it's a fantastic, you know, position to be in when the things that we're discussing, I'm not going to say arguing, the things that we're discussing on social media is the kit and the
Yeah.
hoops and the shorts, and you know, and everyone's preference. How good is that? That,
Yeah.
you know, that's the you know, the conversation piece. I think, you know, going back to the chat, the designs pre-launch, there were some really wild ones. I think the one that was my favorite was the Reading Elvis one.
Oh.
That was
Yeah.
my I saw that one and that was brilliant. I love that. But look, today, go on, yeah.
No, I was going to say this, but this is the power of social media, right? Because obviously myself and Ross hadn't seen it. Ross is off X completely now.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
know, there was a few people
Don't blame you.
floating,
No,
yeah, well,
yeah.
yeah, that we both know mutually that were kind of floating around saying the kit's horrific, and I'm thinking, have you actually seen this, or are you just
Because
like,
that was the big thing, wasn't it? No, you know,
yeah,
it didn't get leaked. And there was never a picture on social media.
mm,
So I think what happened is some people had seen it through various reasons. Um, both genuine and not genuine, as these things happen. This happens in the world of kit launches. There are so many moving parts to a kit launch, that there's so many people that see that kit from almost like 6 7 months ago, so sometimes it's inevitable. But I think what happened is, I think someone described it, and then someone described it to someone else, but then that person added something on or took it away, and then I don't actually think the actual kit got you know uh, any airtime. So
yeah,
I think today, social media, obviously I've been on it. I'm quite active on the hashtag. I do put myself out there in the space, good and bad, because I think what I try and preach in the store is total transparency, as much as as we can do, and to have that space where fans can interact with myself and shoot off ideas, ask questions that sometimes are a 10-minute wait on a phone line I can solve by you just tweeting me. We can do that. I think today I've been massively surprised that the reaction seems to be mostly positive. I think you're always going to
Yeah.
have, always going to have a few people that don't like it, and that's fine. It's
Is this
it's
the
not
most?
for.
Sorry, Dale. Is this the most
Go on.
nerve-wracking day of the year for you? As
Yeah,
the
100%.
yeah, must be.
100%, because we can form our opinions on it, but ultimately it's you guys that will walk in the store and choose to either buy it or not buy it, or buy it online. And it is nerve-wracking. I hate it and I like it at the
Yeah,
same time.
yeah.
It's always that day where you get to see fans that hey, you haven't seen in a couple of weeks, for a few months, because of the end of the season, which is always good. We've seen some new fans today, I think, that and fans that haven't been to the store in a long while. But yeah, it's very nerve-wracking. But overall, I'm pleased that, number one, it's not just us talking about the kit. I think any publicity is good publicity, and I think the fact that other clubs are talking about us again shows the strength of our position going into this season. They're talking about our kit, they're talking about our transfers. That I'm sure
Mm.
you're going to discuss our recent one later in the pod, which is a really good signing. But yeah, overall, I think it's a good reaction. Certainly in store today, it was a really good day for the store, better than I anticipated. So
I mean, talking about the store, because obviously I've been going to the stadium since it opened in '98, and I can't remember the store being, and this is from a consumer point of view, kind of as organised and as accessible as it is now. And I think one of the key things really when I walked in today, and it was the same, I guess, last season. It was the same last season. Is that kind of podium that you've got right at the
yeah.
front of the store? Like, do you? You've worked in customer care a long time. Today, did you see a lot of people walking in with like, I don't know about this, I'm 50-50, and then seeing and going, yeah, here's my £58 or whatever it is? Or were people like me just walking in going, I know what size I am, this is what I want, get out?
Yeah, it's a really good point, and I think we do try and be as organised as we can in the store. The launch pad that you're speaking about is kind of a fanatics experience,
Okay.
tool that a lot of our stores have. It's a conversation piece in the middle of the store. You know,
Mm.
I've seen a couple of comments about the jeans that the mannequin is wearing today.
Yeah, that was
Uh,
good.
yeah, they're not mine. They're a bit too tight for me, to be fair. But yeah, do you know what? Like, I think today there has been a couple of people like yourselves that have literally just gone onto the rail, grabbed it, and then got their shirt in the packet, and then see you later. Thank you very much. I think what's pleased me more is there's quite a number of people that have come in and gone, I was wrong. I judged too quickly. It's not as bad as people say. And I think that the latter is the one that I've experienced the most today. It's not as bad as people say. And I think that will probably be a learning curve for people going forward, that
Yeah.
maybe just get down to the store if you're able to, and just come and see it for yourself and make that judgment there and then. Because also, it looks totally, I'm sure you'll agree, it looks totally different to how it does in store than it
Mm.
does on social media. You know, you've got all lighting effects on social media, you've got all
Yeah,
sorts, you know, it's
it's not as
having that.
washed out
Yeah.
as people
Yeah.
say it is. Like it's actually quite a bold, strong pattern. It's quite vibrant. So I mean,
Well,
I think
speaking
that's a
about
really
the
positive thing.
pattern, I think something that's kind of interesting. Like you mentioned the cityscape kit and stuff like that a few years ago, and that was one for me where I was kind of like on it until I
Don't
saw
like
like the whole like branding kind of thing go together, like you were saying, with having the cityscape in like the lineup graphic and stuff like that. So can you talk a little bit about like, so what does that kind of like branding setup happen after the kit has been, chosen, once we have that final kit, do you guys then begin setting that up?
What, in terms of the actual design, or the kind of.
How you guys kind of like break that design out from the home shirt across like the, towards other parts of the, the marketing and
Yeah, I
stuff
think,
like that.
yeah, look, that's mainly kind of like club based, but certainly from my take, it's, the guys, and I've mentioned before, Tim and Roseanne, they do come up with it. I think, it's a word used often, but it's a story, isn't it? You're telling the
Hmm.
story
Yeah,
via the kits. You mentioned the marketing. The flowers have been on everything
love
since
it.
May, and it's been hilarious for people to just see people speculate. Um, Look, I think, the cityscape's one of those things that just showcases Reading. Like, we're all Reading, aren't we? I know that's not
Yeah.
our
Yeah.
moniker, but
no, yeah,
um,
you're right. Yeah, yeah.
and we identify it. We see it, but we have a strong. This club has, even with the past 3 years, has a real strong kind of sense of what we're about, what the city's about. Town, sorry, it should be a city. Let's be
Should
fair.
be a city.
Um, Criminal that it hasn't been already.
I was literally having to explain this to Americans last week, like what a
Yeah,
city is in England and why Reading isn't a city. Like, and it's
yeah,
like I think I learned from that it's the biggest city or biggest town in England that
It is a
isn't a
yes,
city.
city.
yeah.
Ridiculous. Anyway, sorry, I
But
completely
yeah, I think,
derailed you.
yeah, and you'll see more of the design of this kit in things like the tickets, and all sorts of banners and things like that. What we'll do in the store in the next season, a lot of it will be predominantly based around the designs of the shirts. So our launch pad flag, our gondola headers, if we do
Mm,
match day deals again, that we often do, that will, the design of it will form part from the kit. And I think that's
yeah.
a really good way of doing it. And we did it last year with 2 seasons ago with the cityscape. Purple turtle we did it with, which was obviously a really popular shirt. um I think it's something the club do really, really well, and as a whole marketing package, and it
Hmm.
starts from the design of the kit. It's really
Yeah.
clever, and hats off to the club, and hopefully we'll see more of that. But yeah, look, overall, it's, as I say, it's the most nervous day, but it's also the best day
Yeah.
when you see, how good it is to have this kit launched. There were times where I didn't think it would get launched. There was times where it'd be, what sort of launch will it be? You know, but yeah, overall, it's really pleasing, and I I really can't wait for everyone to see the away in third, because
Yeah. Me too.
Awesome.
they're also really unique.
Are they? Oh, there's three shirts. Oh, brilliant.
Yeah,
Okay. I mean, do you know what? I like
yeah,
the goalie
yeah,
top actually. I was looking at that as well,
yeah.
but
A really
the
strong
goalie
one
top
this
really.
year as well. Yeah.
So physically, you shut up the shop last night at what 4 or 5, whenever it closes, and this is still in boxes, right?
So I'll talk you through this year's one, because every year is slightly different. But this year's one, we received the kit on Tuesday. So
Okay.
Tuesday afternoon, I think one eagle-eyed Twitter user spotted me pulling pallets into the concourse. So yeah, thanks to that person, they know who they are. Um, yeah, so we pulled the delivery in. We'll count it. It's all in boxes. So we have what's called pre-retailed and then boxed. We don't traditionally take pre-retailed in, which is already hung, because we have our own Macron hangers. Um, Take the kit in, we count it, we verify the count to make sure everything's right. And then from that moment, we really start working it. So that means, hanging shirts out, putting it in the box, putting it in our storage areas, putting it under the till. The fun fact is the kit's been under the till all day yesterday.
Okay.
But no one knew, and that's the
Yeah, yeah,
beauty of
yeah.
it. Fans coming in yesterday, and myself and my colleagues were working it in the back. It's
Brilliant.
it's quite fun. It's quite fun having that kind of sense of that. That there's this secret, and it's about to be revealed. I'm guilty for putting a few teasers over the past week or so, like on my own X account, just to kind of build that suspense up, and also,
Yeah,
but yeah, so yeah, we get it in, we count it, we merch it. The mannequins are probably like the last thing you do, which are always the worst thing to do. The amount of throwing around a mannequin because you can't get the shirt on or things like that.
yeah, yeah.
But look, I
Were
enjoy
the
it. I
jeans
love it.
already in the stadium and you just found them, or did someone have to bring the jeans for the mannequin in?
No, someone had to go to a well-known clothing
Mm.
store and buy them.
Hmm.
Look,
Nice.
and that in itself is a choice of how we display the store for this season, right?
Yeah.
We've never done, and as far as I know, before my time, the club have never had a mannequin with a pair of jeans on. It's always been full kit. That's it. So it's like we're saying to you that, yeah, this is the kit that the players are going to wear, but this is also a kit that you can wear with jeans, you can go out in, and things like that. I'm sure there'll be some people that won't agree with me that they'll go out in this kit, but it's having that option, and it's giving people that option to see it like that, because ultimately, you only really see it up until a point, until fans obviously start coming back into the games. You only see it
Yeah,
in the sense of the full kit. You don't ever see it as a fashion piece, which, for whether you agree with it or not, I think if you look at every kit launch that's taken place across most clubs this summer so far, I bet you can count on your hand how many have released the kit in its full form. It's always with shorts, or a nice pair of cargo trousers, or it's a very fashion conscious environment now. And I think that's
yeah,
what we're trying to do as well in store, is push that as well, that you can wear these shirts with like jeans and everything. It doesn't have to just be a full kit. But yeah, and then yeah, it's trying to find a pair of trainers that fit a mannequin
Yeah.
is, you know, one of those things. But yeah, look, it's great to be involved in. I love sport. I love football. I've grown to like love this club. I think it's a great club with great fans, and I'm not just saying that for you to come to the store and pay £58 and buy a shirt. It's a
Yeah.
genuine feeling.
mm,
I think I won't dwell too much on it. As our new owner said on your pod the other week, I won't dwell too much on the past, but our store was the only thing that was kind of open to fans during that time. We saw a lot of
mm,
fans like yourself that were frustrated, um, and you kept going, and it feels like we got our club back.
mm.
Um, and this is the first kit in like a new era, and I think that's, if anyone's sitting on the fence, that's, I think, how you should look at it,
Yeah.
is that this kit has made it through a lot of issues to get here.
Yeah, definitely. And it's going to be a cult classic, right? You're going
Well,
to
that's what I
look at it and
said.
go,
That's
"Wow,
what, yeah.
you're not going to get this again." So
Look, we've had one person come in the store today who didn't support Reading and bought the kit.
Oh wow,
So
that's cool.
it's already, I think,
wow,
in a few months you'll start seeing it on, like, football shirt culture, X accounts, things like that. I think you will really start to see it being picked up by
yeah,
other people who like shirt collectors and things like that, like genuine shirt collectors. The same as the purple turtle kit. It's the same, the amount of people that I've seen. And I think this is going to be a kit that will be seen at Reading Festival as well. I think that's, you're going to see a lot of people wearing this kit, and the others as well, hopefully. But yeah.
Final question for you before we let you go: were there people queuing up outside the shop before you opened today?
Do you know what? Like, I'd love to say yes, that there was a queue of 100 people, but there wasn't. But the reason is we can launch kits in totally different ways. We can, like, for example, last season we wore it on the last game of the season.
Yeah,
Fans saw it. We had the mannequin on the launch pad in the store that you could come and see after the game. Really good conversation piece, and we launched on May the 17th. So fans had an expectation and knew that we were launching, so could form a queue and things like that. We did what's called like a blind launch this year, where it just drops at 10 a.m. and the store's already open. So I will, it's been a really good day today, but I think the weekend will potentially be busy. And, I'll just shout out that we are open 10 to 5 tomorrow, 10 to 5 Saturday, and 10 to 4 on Sunday.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, I'd love to say there was a queue, but there was a steady stream of fans in the store today, and it exceeded my expectations, certainly in terms of today. And I look forward to welcoming everyone, over the coming weeks, like into the store. And yeah, just like, thank you to everyone that come in today. It's always appreciated talking to fans, and keep the communication up with the X. Like, and honestly, if any fans have got product suggestions, like, DM me. Like, I can't always guarantee that they'll be made, but believe me that it gets fed back. Everything gets fed back, and just
that's how
really
you got your
forward
club back. When the people online are listening, when the people like yourself, Dale, who, make decisions and have things, do important roles to the club, it's good to know that you guys are listening.
Yeah, we're definitely listening. And look,
it's been great. Like, honestly, like having that communication and the way the shop is, and the product range and everything. As I said, I think it's just massively improved, to be honest, and it's been great. Been really enjoyable to go in there.
Yeah, and that's what we want, because you can go to the bars and you get a drink and before you get in your seat, but what we try and do in the store is that kind of like really good atmosphere in the store. Music's playing or the football's on, and you're being served by genuine football fans, and you're being served by the majority of us Reading fans. I certainly didn't start this journey as a Reading fan, but I am a Reading fan now.
Yes, get in there. We got another one.
And that's one of our big pieces is, you come into the store, you get the Fanatics experience, which is by fans for fans. And I'd like to think that does show when you come in.
No, they're good. They're good people in there. They really are. And, when I've been in there, even last season, they were always really kind of respectful and polite, and, they're kind of classic. Hope you have a good day. And it's like, only if they win, ha ha ha. Like, how many times have you had that sort of thing? And they every time they took it. So they're great. They're a credit to the store, credit to the club, and long may it continue. And I hope that we're able to shift a few of these for you, Dale, really, because it's all right.
Yeah, hopefully. It's all right, yeah.
It's all right.
Look, it looks good on you. So there you go. That's the best compliment I can pay. There you go. We'll get a screen grab of that. Yeah, get a screen grab of that on social media. I'm sure we'll shift quite a lot.
Exactly. Right, yeah. Listen, Dale, lovely to talk to you, man. I know you've had a long day, so really appreciate.
Thank you, appreciate it.
And giving us this exclusive interview, Dale Y, everybody, the mega shop manager. So if you're in the store, very much, guys, because he's a great guy.
It's time for the mailbag. Send us your views on X, Blue Sky, or email us at tilehurstend@gmail.com.
So that was Dale Y, the manager of the mega shop. Great to have him on. Really, busy guy. As he said, he's been at work since 7.
We're doing a very good job of getting people who have been up too long on the podcast in the last couple of weeks, aren't we? Rob had been up for hours and hours as well.
If people are at the club are listening to this and you're a staff member and you regularly work 12-hour days, can you just let us know? Because we'll add another 2 to it. Yeah,
right.
We'd love to have you on. But in all seriousness, like we are getting more people that work for the club kind of reaching out to us, and that's that's really important for us, because whilst this is for the fans, and it always will be, whether it's me and Ross doing it or someone else, it's great to have people that work at the club day to day, and Dale's obviously one of those. If you've been in the shop in the last 2 years or whatever, you know him by face, and he's really, really good at interaction and talking to people. So he means it when he says I regularly go in there and just to have a browse, but he's always talking to someone, and that's brilliant. That's exactly what you need from a customer relationship point of view, but also just a community club point of view, which is what we are. So massive thanks to Dale.
I think clubs
massive thanks to him.
No, I think clubs are like really focused on and fans are really focused on like celebrating their players, which makes complete sense. Like that is what kind of drives the the happiness at your club is results often at the end of the day. But I think like if the last few years have shown us anything, they've shown us we're there's a lot that goes on off the field as well, and it's just great to kind of like celebrate and hear from the people that work at the club day in day out.
Mailbag time. A few little bits in there, really. Ian, our good friend Ian, says, do you think the club have missed a trick by not doing a 106 throwback, or do you think now we have to look to the future? I think that he is referring to the shirt.
Yes, it's 20 years since the 106 season, right? So yeah, I do see where he's coming from there. Thinking about how Dale said that it's the first shirt of the new era. I think it being of a new era and being indicative of a new era is important. Obviously, when they design the kit, if they're saying they designed it all the way back in October or before, then, they didn't necessarily know that the deal was going to be done by then. So I'm kind of glad that it's not a 106 kit. At some point, doing a refresh of that would be really fun. I definitely think that, a lot of people would be into seeing something kind of similar to maybe the Premier League kits or the 106 kit, like they say. But I think for now, it's good to have a new kit that is very that can be, we can associate with this new era. And you kind of said it feels like it's going to be a cult classic. I think that, just having that bit more memorable sort of visual iconography about it will really help it feel like it's part of the new era.
I think it's tricky with the 20 years because, well, firstly, it doesn't feel like 20 years. And secondly, it's like, if you do that, do you then do, we're going to do 30 years, we're going to do 40 years, it becomes very difficult to mark that in terms of a time. I get what he's saying. I just don't think that when this was produced, so obviously Dale said he saw it back in October. I know for a fact these are done on a yearly, almost 2 yearly basis. So I'd wager, having spoken to Tim, previously about the kits, that next year's are already done. So I think if you go back to 12 months ago, the club, the way it was, there is probably a very difficult element to go, people are really going to want. They're going to want to be reminded of like the club's glory year when we're in the absolute hellhole of where we are. So it's very difficult, really. I don't know.
Kind of blows my mind.
I don't think they have. I think this is a very, very unique version of what they could have done.
Yeah. It blows my mind a little how early it happens. Like it makes sense from like a perspective of like, logistics with that kind of stuff is, complicated. You want to get that stuff ordered and everything squared away like nice and early, but it is mad to me how early. And I think it's really impressive too, because I often feel like football kits kind of speak to where fashion and UX design, for lack of a better term, are going to be in like 9 months time, 12 months time. Like there's so many times when I see a kit at first I'm like not sure about that, and then not only 6 months later do I think actually I quite like this, I then also see kind of where they were going with this, because like a lot of their other kits are kind of similar, like Adidas kits often feel kind of meh to me when they first come out, and then after I've sat with them for a bit I'm like, it's actually quite a cool kit, and the way that they break the templates out across different things, it just works for me like after a little bit of time. So I think it's a really tough job being someone who designs football shirts.
100%. Moving back onto the pitch, Bobbins, good old Bobbins. We've now covered one of our central defensive positions in Paudie, but which position would you like to see filled next?
Right wing. Right
careful.
Wing. Yeah, I know.
Position, not political persuasions.
I mean, I mean, replacement for Chem Campbell, not a reform candidate. No.
Yeah, go on.
No, I was going to say right wing. I think that I'm not super surprised that Chem Campbell, now that he's signed his permanent deal in League One, has gone, down a little bit further. Although he's gone to Stevenage, right? I got them mixed up in my head with Burton there.
Yeah, Chem Campbell's gone.
Yeah, Chem Campbell's gone to Stevenage, and I think that Chem had moments last season whereby he had some really good moments. Like he gave us, he basically got us through that game against Harbour Town when they took us to extra time and we were a man down, and his quality in that game kind of got us through and got us into the next round. I think that there were too many periods during the year where he just went through a 4 or 5 game stretch where he wasn't quite contributing enough, and that's probably why Reading didn't go back in for him. But that does mean that we still haven't really replaced Femi Aziz, from a year ago. And so for me, replacing Femi is still kind of pretty high up on the list. There's 4 or 5 different spots in the team, though, that you could honestly start. I mean, anything other than center mid is a legitimate thing to suggest here, I think.
I think it depends on how quickly they were, because we're told by Joe Jacobson that there was 2 or 3 other players that have signed a contract extension. They've just not been announced. I think the big question mark is about Mbenge, and they will know by now if he's staying or not. And I'd like to think that if he's not, they've got someone ready to go. Because you bring in Paudie in, and he's a replacement for Tyler Bindon, simple as that, really.
Yeah.
In terms of numbers. So I still think there's work to be done on the defence, but that won't, like if Dorset doesn't stay, if Michael Craig doesn't stay, if Mbenge doesn't stay, that's a huge problem. That's 3 players you have to get in defensively just on numbers, let alone depth. So
yeah. I mean, just thinking about minutes, thinking about just the amount of minutes that you need to replace on the field, it's over 6,000 minutes last season between Mbenge and Bindon that you're looking to replace, basically. I mean, Mbenge missed 12 games, and he still made he still played almost 3,000 minutes of football in 24-25. So it's just that's kind of something I was getting at with Paudie, is that he's played a lot in the last few years. He also gets through a lot of work during games, but we just need replacement minutes as much as anything in that department, and then we'll get the depth going after that.
There's still a lot of work to be done, but I think we can, based on where we've been, I think we can celebrate those signings a little bit more than maybe we are, rather than going, we still need this. It's like, just enjoy, without sounding tin pot, enjoy what you get in to start with, because everyone in the club knows we need players, regardless of whether all those out of contract players that have been offered a contract stay. Still need players. So getting these big signings done early is a real show of intent to those players that might still be on the fence. I'm happy with where we are. I know people will be disagreeing with that, but it's still very, very early on. Rob said last week that it still blows my mind that I'm saying, Rob said to us last week. Like, it's just, I still can't really get my head around it.
It's funny, isn't it? Yeah. But there was a point made there too that, yes, this thing goes for quite a while, and with regards to loans as well, a lot of the players that will eventually get loaned out, clubs like to get them back in for the first few weeks of preseason first, so that they can get a look at them and see where they should be going, what kind of team they should be going to. So I mean, that's just something that just hasn't happened yet. People aren't doing that because I don't think the loan window is even open yet. So yeah, it's still very early on. I think it's great that we've got, this player in Paudie lined up. And I think that speaks again to the recruiting nous of Carey. I'm sure that, Stephen Hunt being his agent had something to do with it. But if you, again, like I was saying, look at the sort of style of player he is, this is a great replacement for Tyler Bindon. Or if in terms of if Hunt wanted to do the same thing that he's been doing last season with Bindon, he could probably do that with Paudie O'Connor. They're slightly different players, but they certainly have some pretty big similarities in a lot of ways. So yeah, I mean, it's early days still. We've got the 2 most important players signed in Wing and Pereira. And from there, we've already shown that the players that we are going to bring in, like Paudie, are there is clearly some thought behind this, and that's good to see. It's not just buy a player because we have, the money and we can offer them the most in terms of wages. It is go and get a player who is actually going to be able to replace what it is that you're losing from the team in the players that have left. And we're always going to be a selling club, like we've talked about many, many times. So the ability to go out and get a replacement that can do, something similar to the player that you lost, it's really, it's crucial. And so, yeah, it's great to see the club doing that again.
This week, Thomas Hill says, what would your dream pre-season game be? I know what you're going to say. It's just pointless even asking you.
Yeah. Well, do you want to go first then, so I can have a think and not give you a terrible American answer?
Well, the dream would be Inter Milan,
Oh, really? Okay.
Or one of those. To play a European giant would be unreal.
Yeah,
absolutely unreal.
I was going to actually, it's a funny one. I would almost say AC Milan, because they often do these kinds of things in, the early, I guess they don't really do that anymore. You're never going to play a team like that anymore, though, because they all go off to America to do or Asia to do various preseason tours and things like that now. So I think there's a lot going on that's quite cool out of the Norwegian and the Scandinavian teams right now. So it'd be kind of cool to face some teams from that. I think that's what you should use preseason for as much as anything, is to just, obviously you want to get your players ready for what they're actually going to see in the season. But I think it'd be cool to go and play some teams from, similar divisions in different countries, or from other leagues that are, equal in skill level to League One.
Yeah. I get where they're coming from with these friendlies. There's still obviously quite a few to go. I would suggest that there is still a home game in there somewhere for the preseason schedule. But, I know a lot of people were disappointed we were playing Portsmouth on the last weekend before the season starts. Makes sense, because we're not a million miles from where Portsmouth are. In terms of the style of play and quality. So what you don't want to do is go, we're going to play like Ajax and get beaten 6-0 on the season, on the weekend before the season starts. So I think there's a method there to what they're saying. It's not going to sell tickets. It's not going to put people in seats, but there is I think there's a legitimate reason why they were going after a team like that. So, I think there's still a lot to come, really. Head over to Blue Sky, where you are a fully fledged resident.
Yep. My place.
Just loading up.
Yeah, okay. Doesn't open Blue Sky very often, clearly.
I know. Right, let's have a look. Gav, which piece of minor league baseball razzmatazz are you most and least looking forward to seeing at the SCL? If anyone comes up the Dolan stairs selling bags of popcorn, I'm going to slap them.
Oh, really? You wouldn't like that? Oh, yeah, I guess because you can't. That's a shame, because regulations would have to change. But that's actually one of my favorite things about baseball, is that often you don't need to leave your seat for things to be delivered to you. It's pretty cool when you're just chilling and your beer finishes, and then you can grab another beer right away from the guy who's just
walked out. If I was allowed to drink, I would, I'd drink at least 6 lagers.
Well, exactly. Yeah, actually, it could be dangerous, but if they wanted to sell more Heinekens, they could definitely do it that way. Yeah. So, I think that if there's anything I'm hoping that they don't do at all, I may have mentioned this during on the pod too, Rob, but don't do the themed nights, Avengers night or Star Wars night or whatever. Those are very, very common.
It just wouldn't go well, would it?
It would not go down well with English fans. I don't mind the fireworks stuff, to be honest. I think he's kind of dead on that, if you put something on, there are loads and loads of minor league baseball games that people go to because of the entertainment that is on. They don't go for the team. They don't care. They go because there's entertainment on afterwards. And he's right. If you want to get kids in there and you want to get the next generation of fans in there, you need to have something, that entertains them as well. And I don't really agree with like Florentino Perez that like football is too long, like their games are too long. But I'm sure for you as a parent, it's easier to keep your kid invested. It's like, all right, yeah, the game's going on, but also you get to see the fireworks afterwards, or you get to see like whatever else afterwards. I want to see more games. You get a lot of games like on the turf at baseball games too. So yeah. But don't do the theme.
I was going to say, you know, all jokes aside, and I've been asked a few times by people, like, I would love to get back on a pitch at half time and do it, because I think it's a really important part of going to a football game. You know, half time is generally pretty tragic, but actually, if you got something on that you can see and it's different, you know, I'd love to do it. If it's not me, I'd love someone else to do it. But I think when I was doing it, the club was in a very different mindset, and it was very, very difficult to get stuff done. Now I think the shackles are off a little bit and people are a bit more fluid, so I would love to see something along those lines, whether it's me or someone else. You know, I think it's really, really important to have that.
I'll only take it if it's you.
Wow, stop it, you're making me blush.
Yeah.
Stop it. Tim R, this is a stunning question. I don't know if you're about to answer this one. You might be able to. Okay. It's related to the kit. What is the best retro biscuit?
A Tim Tam, right? Isn't that the Australian one?
That's not really a biscuit. That's in a wrapper.
A penguin. Is that a biscuit?
No, that's the same thing.
No, that's a biscuit, kind of.
No,
that's a biscuit. It's just a chocolate covered biscuit. It's a biscuit.
What he's talking about, I would imagine, is when you get, you know, like you get the family circle box and you open it.
Yeah.
And you go,
okay,
there's a massive selection of biscuits. What am I going to first? So he's on about pink wafers, custard creams.
Okay.
Chucking a party ring, bourbons, nice biscuits, those coconut rings.
I like rich tea biscuits because they got a little cow on them. I like the little cow.
No, that's malted milk, you idiot.
Oh. You can tell I've been gone for a while, can't you? Oh my word.
God, you've spoiled it for everybody.
This is the worst possible question for me. The cookie and biscuit aisles could not be more different in the United States and in the United Kingdom. So this is I'm so far out of my comfort zone right now. So a biscuit is like a scone kind of thing.
Yeah, that's true. I think for me, it depends on the nature of how you're eating them. So is it with a hot drink? Is it just a snack? Yeah. Is it like I'm having a bowl full? Like what is it? I mean, pink wafers are unreal.
I still think a penguin counts. I don't. It's the pink wafer's still in a packet. Like you can literally buy the equivalent of a pink wafer individually wrapped at Cafe Nero anytime you want. So like
I think buy pink wafer in Cafe Nero. How dare you? It's
a fancy pink wafer that's like almond or like whatever, but it's still a pink wafer cookie, guys.
You think biscotti? It's a completely different thing altogether.
No, not the crispy one.
I can't believe this. It's like finding
the wafer one. The wafer. We're called the biscuit man. I don't know what I'm talking about.
You're
the
talking
wafer
about the caramel waffle.
Yeah, no, not a Stroop waffle. I know what a Stroop waffle. Right, end this because I could talk about biscuits. Yeah. Oh God.
What am I saying, Tim? I am going all rounder. I think you've got to go. You've got to go those nice biscuits with the sugar on. They're like rectangles, and they say nice on them, and they got sprinkles of sugar. I think you got to go them.
And I'm saying malted milk. Is that what you're saying? I am. What? That's the cow
that's
one.
The one that's the cow one. Yeah, they're good as well. Yeah, they're fine.
I like them.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. Well, there's your answer, Tim. We've learned a lot about a lot of people in this small segment. The last one, and it is to do with transfers because we said we're going to talk about transfers and rumours. Jonathan, hi guys. Hi, Jonathan. If all the retained players we have offered contracts to sign, which position does the club need to focus on the most? For me, I think we need to get ideally 2 strikers and one of them being a proven League One scorer. Kind of the same question Bobbin asked, but on a different platform. But how many, and this is the reason I'm asking this, how many strikers do we need, in your opinion, right now?
2. I think he's right. I think he's right that the forward line is pretty much the place where we need the most reinforcement. Because I mean, like at the end of the day, our top scorer is a centre mid, and obviously Harvey Nibbs is a centre mid who has played in more forward positions at many times. But then our second top scorer is a centre mid. So I think that we need to start getting some more goals from the forward line for sure. I think that the amount of goals that we've been able to pick up in the last couple of seasons from further back has been pretty impressive. But Sam Smith was kind of, he had the entire striker department on his back for a large part of the 18 months he was with us. So yeah, I think that having a little bit more, I think that like the idea of having a plan B is kind of overblown in football, but just having a couple different kinds of striker who can give you something a little bit different. I think that's definitely somewhere that I think that's definitely somewhere that we can improve.
Good point well made. As throughout the pod, as always. That just about wraps up episode 421. Thank you so much for listening. It's a real warm night here in downtown Tilehurst. It really is.
It's gotten warm here too while we've been chatting here in Maine. So it's just a warm night. It's a warm night in football overall.
Yeah, we're buzzing. We're very excited by things that are happening. We hope that you are as well. We get the frustration, we see that, but I think at the moment it's for me, and I guess for Ross as well, it's too early for that. It's just enjoying these little things that normal football clubs in inverted commas do, and what we are back to. One being this football shirt, signing players like Paudie, Joel coming back in for another stint. All this stuff is really, really positive. We hope you've enjoyed this pod. We hope that you can look past Ross's inability to understand what a biscuit actually is.
Yeah, well, look, let me live in my ignorance. Look, at the end of the day here, someone made a comment to me on Blue Sky where they said we could just put Pereira and Wing out there and we'd boss League One. We don't even need the rest of them. And I think, that's the right attitude right now. Like we've got a lot of work to do. But we're building the pillars. The pillars are being built right now, and that's exciting to see.
Disappointing because I thought that you were going to say something profound about biscuits and kind of amend what was actually.
I ain't got anything profound to say about biscuits. Sorry, I'm eating mega stuff Oreos right now. You'd hate it.
Sounds awful. Yeah. Sounds absolutely awful. Listen, enjoy the remainder of your bank holiday because it's Juneteenth, isn't it, over there?
It is Juneteenth. Yes, thank you. Yes, we're observing today. It's it's not actually like the real. I don't think it's like the exact date or anything, but it is a symbolic date to celebrate the end of slavery in the United States. So if you don't know anything about Juneteenth, it's definitely worth learning a little bit about it. Obviously, it's Pride Month as well, and that kind of goes into civil rights and things like that. So yeah, definitely worth checking out. It's kind of interesting. Happy Juneteenth to anyone who is celebrating.
Indeed. Thank you so much for joining us on this weird, muggy, warm night. We will see you next week for something in some description for episode 422. Have a lovely weekend. I'm sure you listen to this on a Friday. Well, you will be because that's when it comes out. So enjoy your weekend. Make sure you drink lots of water, and we will see you soon on the Tilehurst podcast. Come on, you arts.